Hello, wonderful people. What's going on? Happy Monday to you, and welcome to your WWE Raw review for May 23rd, 2022. May 23rd, not exactly Good Mike Works' favorite day of the year. Today is the 23-year anniversary of the death of Owen Hart, and I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more in tonight's episode as we go on. But every time I see the calendar on May 23rd, it just kind of gives me a heavy heart all day long. Tonight's Raw, not so great. Didn't help matters any. I don't know what you guys are going to grade the show. I would grade the show shit tonight. I would give it a solid D. Nothing above that. Raw has shown glimmers of hope over the last couple of months, especially around WrestleMania time. The show wasn't too bad. Maybe many argue that it would even outperform SmackDown in many weeks. However, tonight was not very good. Tonight was a lot of typical WWE crap, kind of DQ and count out finishes, shitload of rematches, typical, pay-per-view build type of stuff, and nothing really that extravagant went down on the show tonight. And there was a couple of head-scratching things, like Jerry Lawler's King's Court with Veer. Who the fuck came up with that idea? Like, that's the most random shit I've ever seen. We saw no advertisement for that, I don't think. Throughout the day, all I saw was Cody and Miz and Asuka and Becky. Nothing about any sort of King's Court shit with Veer. And just a lot of just weirdness, tonight. So not the greatest show. I think the one good thing about the show is that it is becoming crystal clear that Riddle is a big star and will be a big star and can survive just fine on his own without Randy Orton, despite how over the entire RK Bro team has been. And I think WWE has got themselves a star in Riddle. But aside from that, I'm not going to give Raw very high marks tonight. We'll go through the show here. We'll preview a lot of Hell in the Cell. Like I said, we'll probably talk about Owen Hart a bit as well. And I'm going to let you guys know what to expect from me on the channel this week. I'm about to head to Vegas for Double or Nothing this weekend, but you're going to get a video every single day on the channel except for tomorrow. And it should be a good, nice big week before we get to the weekend. And I'm absent for Double or Nothing. So I'll let you guys know about that. I want to cruise over here to the chat and say hello to everybody. If you're here right now, please do me a favor and smash the thumbs up button. And if you're not a subscriber, please do that as well. And it should be a relatively quick, but I think fun stream tonight. We will make things happen in here. Good to see Roderick, Sam, Jay Lambo, Population 420. My man, you going to be in Vegas for Double or Nothing? We met at SummerSlam, correct? If you're there, hit me up. Tim is here as well. Tim Barsh, rarely even in the house. Divine Ricks coming in with an early $9.99 super chat. Hey, Greg, I can't believe it's been 23 years since we lost Owen Hart. I was 9 years old at the time. Remember the next day in school? That's all anyone was talking about. Such a sad, dark day. Rest in peace, Owen. See, I was 22 at the time, so I was living in an apartment. I had friends over. We all watched this shit together. It still haunts me and traumatizes me to this day. However, I can't imagine being in school. That was probably pretty gnarly, especially going to school the next day, discussing things at lunch or on the bus or in gym or wherever the hell you socialize at school. I can only imagine for people who are in school, elementary, middle school, high school, whatever, that was probably a big topic of discussion because by 1999, wrestling was huge. So I would imagine there was a lot of wrestling t-shirts around in high schools throughout America. So I bet it was a crazy day at school, man. Never really thought much about it from that perspective before, of actually going to school and having to discuss this, where I just had to kind of wake up the next day and make sure I didn't dream that whole shit and go to work, which was really difficult. But yeah, crazy day. I'm sure we'll be getting into more of Owen as we go through here throughout the night. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of people, have interesting memories of Owen Hart's death. Joshua, good to see you as well. Caitlin Scott in the house, and Population 420. Welcome back. Appreciate the $2. When will Sasha and Naomi return as heels or AEW bound? Your guess is as good as mine. Looks like WWE is continuing on with their erasing of Sasha and Naomi in terms of, merchandise and things like that, and just trying to kind of pause everything. Doesn't look like WWE is too keen on releasing them. I don't think that it would be in WWE's best interest to fire Sasha Banks to set an example, because I don't think a lot of the talent gives a fuck. I don't think anybody there is really scared for their job. If anybody is a higher level talent, they know they're protected. They know that if they do get fired, they have a job waiting for them somewhere else. And that's something that talent hasn't been able to say, up until just a couple of years ago. So it could maybe send a message to, the the lower tier talent, but a lot of them aren't sticking up for themselves anyway. So I don't know. It's not going to benefit WWE just to release them. But if both of their contracts are in fact coming up and they have no intention of sticking around, then fuck, just cut your losses. Otherwise, you're just being spiteful. And many people might feel like WWE has every right to be spiteful since they walked out of Raw. But I am always, especially in today's day and age, going to take the side of the talent over WWE's management, because WWE's management is fucked up and the creative is completely incompetent. So I'm happy to see wrestlers finally standing up against them. But where it's going to land Sasha and Naomi in the future, there's too many factors at play, I think, to accurately really predict or determine that, because we just don't know. We have no idea what WWE wants to do or what they intend to do. They're obviously pissed at them since they've been going out of their way to make statements about their unprofessionalism. But I didn't hear much about them tonight. Granted, I never really pay attention to the commentary. I usually tune it out. But it didn't seem like WWE was really harping on the Sasha and Naomi stuff tonight. They said what they needed to say last week. They stripped them of the titles, announced there's going to be a tournament, and apparently WWE doesn't even know how they're going to handle the women's tag team championships. Color me shocked. They don't know how they're going to handle anything, much less this situation. So I think with that, now they're kind of being a little bit silent about it, and they're going to let everything hash itself out behind the scenes. So there's no really real way to accurately predict anything. No fan should claim to know exactly what these two are going to do, because you don't know. It's not going to be completely up to them. There's going to have to be some cooperation on WWE's side to either bring them back in or release them, or they just sit out their contracts, which if they're not active, WWE could theoretically freeze. I don't know how anything works. So I just hope that it doesn't turn out to be, 18 months off of TV for both of these women. I hope they're able to clean this situation up, get out of there if they want to leave, stick around if they want to stay, and they just resume their career and they are happy. I think really that's personal happiness and mental health is all that matters at the end of the day. So I think that's why you see a lot of people like Tony Storm and Jeff Hardy and others just bouncing the fuck out of there. And if that's what Sasha and Naomi choose to do, best of luck to both of them. Doesn't seem like it's going to affect Jimmy Uso at all, considering that he just unified the tag team titles with his brother. So all we can do is sit back and watch and see what exactly is going to go down with Sasha and Naomi. I don't know. And it's going to be really fun and probably a little bit hilarious to watch WWE try to figure out these women's tag team titles, because they've been a joke since their creation. Sasha and Naomi were trying to make them more than a joke, only for WWE just to stick them on the back burner again. So they said, fuck you, peace out, we're leaving. And now WWE's stuck with these titles even more worthless than they were already before. And they were already super worthless. So WWE kind of deserves what they get here. They do all this shit to themselves. It's all self-inflicted. And if they just gave a shit a little bit more, things could go so much better for them, I feel like, Good to see a whole bunch of numbers and letters in here as well, along with Riley, Brock, Rodrigo, Selena is in the house, Zayn G, and Deshaun Robinson. Very happy to see my monkey wrenches in here. Ben Espinoza in the house as always, and K-Dog's Kennel. What's up, man? Welcome back. Appreciate you being here, and thanks again for the very generous drop. K-Dog's Kennel is basically kind of half-ass sponsoring a Judgment Day 2000 review next month. We're going to do a live stream, review that show, talk about the Iron Man match. Made a very generous super chat a few weeks ago, mentioned the show, and I was like, you know what, that's going to be a really good review to do. And stay tuned for the review that I've got set for you this week. K-Dogs Kennel says, well, I was 17 when Owen fell. I knew something was horribly wrong when they wouldn't show the ring after the replay of the Blazers interview. What sucks the most is his death was 100% preventative, and it was extremely preventative and preventable, and just so many different things could have happened that would have changed that whole situation. And I remember too, it's kind of funny with the Cody coming into WWE from AEW, excuse me, and the Sasha and Naomi stuff, how many fans are, it's a work and everything, and all the fans who think the Naomi and Sasha shit is a work, you think they would have learned their lesson after the Cody stuff, but this shit has existed forever. Jim Ross, even at Over the Edge, had to say this is not an angle. He basically said this is not a storyline. And you still had people, I think, believing that it was a work, all the way up until the news started picking up on it and stuff. But what should have been a big clue, and what was a clue to everybody in my house that day, was the camera panning to the crowd and not showing anything that's going on in the ring. And the fact that that was happening, I don't think anybody in my house debated whether or not it was a work or not. We all knew that something was seriously wrong there. And that was just a heartbreaking day. And I always get left with this feeling of frustration, because when you think about how many things could have been done differently to prevent it, it's really fucked up that he should be alive and well right now. He just had his 57th birthday or something the other couple of weeks ago. He would still be incredibly young in the grand scheme of things. And it's just a fucking shame. Incidentally, this Thursday, I will be dropping my Over the Edge 1998 review. And I didn't realize this until I was recording it, and watching it and making notes for it. But Owen Hart wrestled the Godfather. He was on the other side. I think it was a 6-man. I think it was like the Nation versus DX. And, Owen was wrestling with the Godfather. I guess he would have been on the same team as the Godfather. Yeah, because he was in the Nation together. So they actually wrestled in a match together, which is really crazy, since they would face each other, or supposed to be facing each other, 1 year later for the IC title. And I think back then, Godfather was still being known as Kama Mustafa. So that will be dropping on Thursday, Over the Edge 1998. But Over the Edge 1999 was probably the darkest day in the history of wrestling. I got to continue on with these shout-outs. We'll get into Monday Night Raw here in just a second. I want to knock out all these super chats, because when it comes to the Raw results tonight, shit, what are we really going to talk about? So there's not a huge rush to get into this stuff. We're going to run through the matches pretty quick here, because nothing was really that important at the end of the day when you look at these Raw results. Where did I leave off? Oh, there we go. We've got Sherry Reigns in the house, and TJ. Andy Linnell is here. JJ Legg in the house. Trey Williams, Hassan. We've got Andy, did I get you? CCDC, and Spaz Phoenix dropping in with $20. Thank you, my friend. Sup, Greg, Kat, and the chat. Gotta say, loving the ladies tonight. Rhea and Liv getting focus in the Judgment Day versus Bullet Club story. Bliss shedding the Fiend stuff. Nikki and Doudrop slowly getting serious. Lynch and Asuka in the main. That's right. I didn't really think about that, but the women did really shine pretty brightly tonight, and that's something that I think AEW could work on, to be honest. But thanks again, Spaz, for that super generous super chat. Go over to Spaz Phoenix's YouTube channel, shoot him a subscription, and like all his videos and that type of shit. But yeah, if you notice too, tonight AJ Styles was wearing his Bullet Club gear. I don't know where Finn Balor was. I expected him to run out there or something. I don't think we saw him. But if they actually do bring back the Bullet Club, and I don't think they can call it that, but I don't know, they might bring some sort of little group here together, and I was assuming that Liv, AJ, and Balor might just be a temporary opponent for the Judgment Day for them to run through, so actually forming a stable faction with those three isn't something that I would think would have a long shelf life, knowing WWE creative and the way they operate. So even if you put AJ, Balor, and Liv together in a real faction, I think that real faction is going to last 3 weeks, and they'll break them up and forget about it or whatever. So I don't even know what the right thing to do there is, but it is cool to see Liv and Rhea kind of shining bright in that intergender match, or that mixed tag earlier on tonight. Also, Alexa Bliss did kind of do a backstage guerrilla interview prior to her match. Who did she face tonight? Nikki ASH. And she did talk about their history, how they used to be best friends, but it's better that they're not friends anymore, because now she's best friends with a doll. So it does seem like she's shedding the Fiend stuff. She's got some new theme music, but she's still nuts. So they could always, kind of refer back to that. Nikki and Doudrop, I think, are the best bets to win the women's tag team titles. If they're going to be together in a unit, you might as well. They're not doing jack shit individually. So they are one team that you could actually make a team, but they're just two terrible gimmick wrestlers, just Doudrop and Nikki ASH. I'd much rather have Piper Niven and Nikki Cross. They would be a badass team, but instead it's this nonsense, but they're still both real good. So if you stick them together just to put them together and give them the tag team titles, fine, do it. I have no problem with that. At the end of the day, it ain't going to mean dick. But I feel like they are the odds-on favorite right now to be the new women's tag team champions. And of course, Becky Lynch and Asuka worked the main event tonight in a match that was not horrible, although I would have been fine with just Asuka and Bianca Belair going one-on-one. And it just goes to show you how WWE continues to change their mind. Last week, when the planned Naomi versus Bianca Belair match fell through because Naomi walked out, they went with Asuka instead, only to turn around and do a rematch tonight where they can plug Becky in and make it a three-way. So knowing WWE, I doubt they had the three-way in mind last week, because they originally planned for Bianca Belair to face someone one-on-one, Naomi. So they just substituted her with Asuka. Then this week, or today probably, or an hour ago probably, they decided they want to put Becky in there too, so they made the rematch from last week. Becky gets her win back and makes it a triple threat. So even though the women are getting a chance to have the spotlight, what WWE's doing with it could be better. It could always be better. King Bling Blah, thank you very much for the $2. What are the odds Tony Khan buys WWE when they are for sale? You know, I've never really thought about that. I don't think so. I think WWE is really looking to sell this to a Disney, an Amazon, someone like that. I don't know if they're looking to sell it to just another individual owner. Because if that's the case, that would be tough for Vince McMahon to do. I think Vince kind of realizes the future of his business and how Nick Khan has come in there and changed so much. He's come in to do his job and what appears to be setting up this company for a sale, and just handing it over to another family would seem odd. And I'd almost rather have it go just to a big company than, you know, maybe an NFL team owner or something like that. I can't imagine Tony Khan buying WWE. That would be fucking crazy. That's not even on my radar of possibilities at the moment. I think it's WWE's going to try to get as much money as they can. That's what I think they want to try to sell this company for. $10 billion. I think. I really think that might be the number they have in mind, is $10 billion. But I don't know how I don't know how you appraise companies and value what they're worth and shit like that, but shit, that might be Nick Khan's job. Get this company to sell for $10 billion. That's all we care about. And whoever wants to buy it for that much can have it. Who knows? But Tony Khan, no, and I wouldn't recommend that, man. We don't want one person or one company having the market cornered. We just did that shit with WWE for the last 20 years, and look at how bad it sucked. Look at how bad it damaged the business, going from the fun of the Monday Night Wars to, literally nothing mattering anymore. So we've gotten to a point where we got competition again. Let's keep it that way. Let's not fuck it up. We don't want to do that. Divine Ricks, appreciate the 5 from you as well. Double or Nothing match card is looking great. I'm looking forward to most of the matches. Hope you enjoy Double or Nothing, my friend. I'm looking forward to it, man. It's coming up in just a few days. It's sneaking up, too. I kind of didn't realize it was here already, but it's about time to hop in the car and head to Vegas. Good to see Xavier Martinez in here as well. JJ Legg, appreciate that $5. To be honest, I'd rather they retire the women's tags. The division isn't deep enough. Bring back the European title as a floating women's mid-card title. All that sounds great, but this is WWE. You got to think about here, and they are just not going to do shit like that. The women's titles have been worthless, useless, garbage since the minute they were created. And WWE has done nothing to improve that. If anything, they've harmed it and devalued it even more, which only WWE's incompetence can accomplish that. They're the only ones that can fuck up to this degree. And just retiring the women's tags or just, just eliminating them altogether would be a great idea, but it's usually not something that WWE does, because there's been plenty of times throughout history where we felt like they could eliminate a title or two, and they don't. But then what they do is eliminate titles you want. Remember when they just unified the world title and the Intercontinental title for some reason? What year was that? Like 2002 or something? Like, what are you doing? You need that title. Now you don't have any titles. So they either have too many or not enough at all, and it's ridiculous. So yeah, if they brought in a European title, especially with all the European wrestlers and stuff in the women's division, that would be great. But especially if they made a women's version of the old men's European title, like the same design, but just made it a women's title, I think it would look awesome. But awesome ideas generally aren't going to be something that WWE is going to do. It's just going to happen in our heads. So only me and you can talk about this stuff, JJ. Good to see James as well, and Zane G, and Victor, and Jose. We got all the friends in here. Off Leather Wings, appreciate $2 from you. Did you see Joey Janela wrestled Barry Horowitz? I did not see that. Holy crap, that's awesome. I'll look for footage of that tonight for sure. I think that knocks out all of the hellos and pleasantries. Vash Starwin is here. So is Ian Dunn. Good to see everybody in the house. Like I said, thumbs up button would be very appreciative. And we will start getting into WWE Raw tonight. One interesting announcement they made on Raw tonight is that we have another Saudi Arabia date set in about 6 months from now in November 5th. Crown Jewel. So they're back to the Crown Jewel name for this one. And there's an interesting tagline, or WWE's Twitter account tweeted out the date of the show and said, "The legends will rise again," or "Legends will rise again." So that makes you wonder if they're going to book this show perhaps like a Legends show. I mean, think about the legends that theoretically could work a match. Brock Lesnar, John Cena, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Edge, Kane, Goldberg. All of these people technically could work a match if they wanted to. Hell, even Undertaker could work a match if he wanted to. Maybe even appearances. Maybe they could book it. I don't even know if I would necessarily hate this, because I don't give a shit about the Saudi Arabia shows anyway. So I don't care what they do on them. So if they decided to make one a Legends show, sure, why not? The fucking idiotic royal family over there wanted Yokozuna. They don't know what the fuck's going on. You could put anybody out there. Just dress Elias as Macho Man and tell him, or Ezekiel, I should say, as a Macho Man, and tell him it's Macho Man. They might not even fucking know. But every time we see these events in Saudi Arabia, there does appear to be like a lot of kids in the audience there. So would they even recognize or give a shit about some of these legends that were at their prime 20 years before they were born? You know, I don't know, but, you know, technically you could do a big-time legend show, whether it's like legends against a current guy, or you could do a big 10-man tag. You could do Goldberg, Brock, Cena, Edge, and somebody else, maybe like Rock or Austin or somebody like that. 10-man tag, 5 legends against, you know, Kevin Owens, The Miz, you know, a bunch of other crybaby heels, Gable or something. I don't know. That might be fun. But it sounds like they might be building this a little bit around some Legends matches, or maybe just one match, or maybe it's one person in particular they have in mind. They might want to bring Hogan in for this to just do an appearance. I mean, think about that. If you did create a stage, you know, like at WrestleMania where they have the Hall of Fame stage, like imagine if you did some sort of a segment where you had all these people in the ring. You had Austin, Rock, Hogan, Goldberg, Brock, Cena. Like, think about that visual for a minute, you know? So they might do something like that over there at some point, you know, in the future. And this is a couple of weeks, I would guess, before Survivor Series. So if they're going to set up any sort of major, big, humongous title match, all that's going to do is take away from Survivor Series anyway. Not the Survivor Series matters much these days with the brand split that doesn't even exist, as we saw Sami Zayn wrestling on Raw tonight. But Crown Jewel is November 5th, and we'll see what they set up for that, because by the time we get to November as well, we're going to start thinking and talking about WrestleMania, which I will be at here in LA. So looking forward to that. Now we can get into the Raw results. Raw opened up with a recap of what went down on SmackDown with the Usos and RK Bro. Usos, of course, unified the Raw and SmackDown Tag Team Championships. After the match, they beat down RK Bro and put, I think, Riddle through a table and fucked Randy up something good. So Riddle comes out to open the show tonight. He's on a scooter and all smiles. I mean, he's not completely smiley like he normally is. He's only like 70% smiley. But this is a guy that got absolutely decimated on Friday, and he's scootering out there happy as ever. But that quickly changed. Once he got in the ring, I think Riddle actually did a really good job of, you know, conveying his sorrow and his sadness. He seemed really legitimately broken up about letting Randy Orton down. He said that Randy is his bro, he's his friend, but acknowledges that he doesn't know what the future of RK Bro is. And he feels really heartbroken that he let Randy Orton down, and said that Randy Orton's been going through a difficult time lately with his back, and he wasn't 100% going into the match, and now he has been injured and he's not going to be around, at least for right now. And Riddle doesn't seem to know when or if RK Bro will ever resume as a team. And he's vowing revenge on the Bloodline and Roman Reigns. And we had heard about the rumors of a Roman Reigns Riddle match either at Money in the Bank or at Hell in the Cell in a couple of weeks. Don't know if Roman Reigns is even going to have a match at Hell in the Cell or not. But if he is, Riddle is a likely opponent, and I think that would be a great match. I think that would be a really fun match. I think Riddle would do fantastic. He's super over. He is over like Rover. I don't care what anybody says. And, I've had my issues a little bit with his silliness, but he really does play the role well. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do, to be an MMA fighter, like a former UFC fighter with a childlike innocence. It's not an easy gimmick to pull off. You have to, have a certain specific type of personality. You can't just ask anybody to do that. It's right up there with the Olympic gold medal winning dork that Kurt Angle was. It was kind of the same thing. I'm like, how is he able to be such a badass, but be such a little muffin at the same time? And Riddle is the same way, but he does it, and he does it well. I think he could scale back a little bit on the silliness and the childlike stuff and be a little bit more edgy, balance it out a bit. But overall, he's a star in the making, man. I think WWE realizes it too. So this will be a good test for him. Obviously, I believe if he faces Roman Reigns for the title, he will not win. And maybe with Riddle, they could accomplish what they probably wanted to accomplish with Cesaro when he faced Roman Reigns. He let this match be a showcase for them. They're going to take the champ to the limit, ultimately fall short, but gain a whole lot of respect from the WWE Universe and management, and maybe even Roman Reigns himself. And maybe this could just be a little bit of a stepping stone for Riddle and WWE to say, okay, we didn't put him over here tonight, but when we do put him over, fans are going to be into it. And he had a good outing, against Roman Reigns. So maybe that's what I believe will happen if they do put this match in place. It'll really, really help Riddle. And then if you do bring back Randy Orton, he could get in the middle of this. He could turn on Riddle. They could reunite, only that for them to turn later. You could add a championship in here, perhaps, and have Randy Orton screw Riddle out of it. There's a lot of things you could do. But Riddle versus Roman in general, I think would be a fun match. I don't think we haven't gotten that one-on-one, have we? Possibly in a tag we have, but I do not think these two have faced one-on-one ever. So that'll be a pretty good one if they do, in fact, book that. So right after that, we're going into our 6-man tag. By the way, Riddle finishes his promo asking the fans to chant RK Bro to support Randy Orton, which they do. And then we go into our 6-man, which is going to be Riddle teaming up with the Street Profits to take on the new Unified Tag Team Champion Usos and Sami Zayn. So prior to the match, as the heels are coming out, babyfaces attack in the aisleway. They only did this so they could go to commercial. Once they started brawling, I'm like, oh, fuck. They didn't do this for any storyline purposes. They did this so they could cut to commercial. So they were brawling in the aisleway. We'll find out if this match is going to happen when we come back, whatever. They come back from commercial, match is underway. Finish sees Sami Zayn kind of getting stuck by himself in the ring. The Usos bail out, leave Sami Zayn all by himself, and walk out on him, and allows Riddle to hit the RKO to tribute his friend Randy on to Sami for the win. So I guess on SmackDown, we might see Riddle turn up there, maybe attack the Bloodline or do something to try to facilitate a match with Roman Reigns, because if they are going to do this at Hell in the Cell, they got to announce it like next week. So they might hold off on that. Roman does not defend the titles at Hell in the Cell, perhaps, and then he waits until Money in the Bank to face Riddle. I don't know. We'll probably find out this week. I think if they don't announce it on SmackDown, then shit, we might not get it at all. Don't know. After that, we had Bobby Lashley coming out to the ring to call out Omos and MVP, which they do. Lashley challenges, I guess, MVP to a match. He's going to face Omos at the pay-per-view, is what it is. And he challenges MVP to a one-on-one match tonight, and the winner gets to pick the stipulation for Omos and Lashley at Hell in the Cell. I will repeat that. The winner gets to pick the stipulation at Hell in the Cell, a pay-per-view or PLE named after a stipulation. And to listen to MVP and the announcers speculate, oh my gosh, what kind of stipulation could they come up with? I'm like, I got an idea. It's kind of the name of the show, the big red box. Lower that shit down. That thing will be much stronger and maybe will not give way when Omos throws Lashley into it. So I love that we're going to get some big dramatic stipulation reveal for a pay-per-view that's apparently got the most gnarly stipulation you can even have as the title of it. So it just feels a little out of place. That's why I don't like when we have these type of pay-per-views. I can handle Money in the Bank. That's probably the only one that I'll tolerate But and you guys know this about me, I just don't like Hell in a Cell pay-per-views. I don't like Elimination Chamber pay-per-views. They're so fucking dumb. TLC, same thing. All these matches are fine on their own, but just use them when you need to use them. Throw one in a SummerSlam. Throw one at a Backlash, a Payback, or something like that. Just use them whenever you need them. Don't stick them on your calendar, which then forces you, to kind of book things or book angles that you might not necessarily do because you got a fucking Hell in a Cell match or Elimination Chamber match coming up, and you need to find a reason to put people in those things. So it's just, it's reverse booking. It's ass backwards, and I think it fucks with WWE's already super shitty creative when they have this type of stuff on the calendar. So I just hate it. So now that we're having stipulations inside of stipulations, stipulation pay-per-views, just makes everything even more confusing than it has to be. So we'll see later on who wins between Lashley and MVP. After that, we go backstage to Becky Lynch and Adam Pearce. Becky Lynch rocking the puffy shirt. She comes right out there looking like she agreed with a low talker to wear a puffy shirt on TV. And unfortunately, the low talker has got so many already being manufactured and made based on the fact that Becky is going to wear it tonight. She had no choice but to come out there looking like a fucking pirate, even though she didn't want to be a pirate, but she had to be one. And that is where Adam Pearce informs her, if he cannot take his eyes off that ridiculous shirt, once he clears his head for a minute and is able to regroup, he informs her that her match with Asuka later tonight has a stipulation added to it as well. If Becky Lynch wins, she will be added to the Hell in a Cell match, or the Hell in a Cell championship match between Bianca Belair and Asuka. And that's what I hate about WWE, because we saw Asuka and Becky Lynch last week, and Asuka won. She's not going to win this time. Like, we know they're going to do this. You can tell that they decided that they want to make it a triple threat instead, since Naomi walking out fucked up all their plans. So now they have to think on their feet, which they're not good at. And then they made the match last week, just put Asuka in the place of Naomi. And then throughout the course of this week, they probably decided, let's make it a triple threat now, and we'll get Becky in there. And she's not going to be winning the title back from Bianca Belair anyway. A triple threat scenario does protect talent in a lot of ways, so I'm not necessarily against this. It's just so goddamn predictable, because the minute Adam Pearce said that to her, you knew she was going to win and find her way into that match. Otherwise, she's just not going to be booked for the pay-per-view, and that seems unlikely at this point for Becky Lynch. So that segment just kind of made me roll my eyes, because I was like, well, we know what the main event's going to be now, or we know what the outcome's going to be. After that, we get a Judgment Day promo. Edge and Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest are in the ring. Edge goes on to speculate who could be joining the group, and he mentions Liv Morgan specifically, mentions Tommaso Ciampa, mentions a bunch of people, and acknowledges that there is some recruitment going on. So the fact that he's mentioned a few names maybe would even eliminate those names now, and we can start thinking elsewhere, because we have been thinking about Tommaso Ciampa a lot. We've been thinking about Finn Balor a lot, at least I have. And I've pitched an idea where maybe Balor and AJ and Liv Morgan are together temporarily, but eventually Balor turns and joins Judgment Day, and maybe he can do some demon shit over there. Damian Priest cuts a promo, does an excellent job. Rhea Ripley cuts a promo, does a not so excellent job. She's not the greatest talker sometimes. Not her fault. I do like her voice, but WWE's promos just suck. They're just scripted shit. So I just didn't like hers as much as I liked Damian Priest. After that, Liv Morgan comes out, and they're about to have a mixed tag match. And I think we cut to commercial, we come back, and we get that match. So it's Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley with Edge at ringside taking on AJ Styles and Liv Morgan. Edge winds up helping out in this match. He kind of holds down, helps out Rhea, and allows her to pin Liv Morgan for the win. And then Judgment Day swarms the two of them, beats both of them up, leaves them laying. I was expecting to see Finn Balor run in. I don't remember seeing him unless I fell asleep or something. He didn't run out there, and AJ and Liv got beat up pretty bad. Like I said, AJ was rocking some of that old Bullet Club gear, so they could do a little mini Bullet Club here with the three of them, but I think in the end they are going to be sacrificed to the Judgment Day, and I think that's WWE's main plan right now, is to get that faction over, although a lot of people aren't feeling it. I'm indifferent about it. I kind of like it and I don't. I like it because I think that Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley both desperately needed something better to do. Damian Priest was on an incredible winning streak. He was doing the stuff with Bad Bunny last year. He was on TV a lot. WWE seemed to like him. And then they just stopped like they always do. You know, I'm like, shit, this guy was on a roll. He was even undefeated for like a year or something like that. So why they just decide to automatically not care so much about him, throw him in Andre the Giant Battle Royals, or just have him do stupid shit. It was a little bit confusing. So when Edge started this faction, it gives him something meaningful to do. And Rhea Ripley, who we've all had equal frustrations with WWE's use of her. I thought she was going to be the next big thing when she won the title in NXT coming in, and then that loss to Charlotte and COVID and just tanked her momentum. And now, you know, when she was with Nikki ASH, I was like, this is just a waste of her. She's too good. You know, she's got too much of a great look and vibe to her, and she needs to do something else. So I think this is an excellent faction for Rhea and Priest to be in, getting that rub from Edge. But so far, fans are saying like they like everybody individually, just not feeling what Edge is trying to do here. And that's fair enough. I kind of agree with that a little bit, but I also think there are aspects to what they're doing that is really, really good. And some things at first don't turn out to be over. It takes a little bit time to grow. I think I was a little unsure of the Ministry of Darkness angle. When it first started, like you could tell they were moving into something like that late 98, early 99 with Undertaker. He'd start showing up on TV on the throne. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? But by the time you got 5 months later and he's burning teddy bears in front of Vince McMahon and trying to, you know, do all sorts of other crazy shit, like tie up Stephanie and marry her and stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, this is good. This is good stuff. So maybe Edge, maybe they can expand on this. This is what I hope WWE will do that AEW does tend to do sometimes when they do hear criticisms from the fans, or you should do this better, or this sucks, or whatever. They do tend to change these things a lot. So if Edge is realizing that, you know, maybe this stuff, fans aren't really feeling this, maybe we'll, you know, tweak it a bit, stay in this direction, but start, you know, maybe our next program will have a little bit different of an attitude, whoever we're working with or whatever. And maybe, you know, they can eventually find their groove and what the identity of Judgment Day really is going to be, because it's still very new. And I'm sure Edge has his ideas of what he wants it to do. But by the time you put WWE's filter through that, it's, you know, it might be hard for fans to quite understand it. Plus, Edge has got a new attitude. He's got new music. He's got a new haircut. A lot of this stuff is new. So I think I'm willing to give it a little bit more time to see if they, you know, find a way to connect better. But then if they don't, you know, dismantle it like WWE always does. And by the time we get to Saudi Arabia at Crown Jewel in November, Edge could be back to coming out to Rob Zombie again. Who knows? In our random what the fuck segment of the night, we've got a King's Court episode. They actually announced Jerry Lawler. He comes out to the old King music, comes to the ring, and his guest is going to be Veer Mahan. So Veer comes out. I can't believe they're doing a King's Court in 2022. I'm trying to think when the first one was. I think 93 was the first one. We're coming up on the 30-year anniversary of the damn King's Court. So Lawler is in there with Veer. He comes out. He starts making a stupid, just as Lawler jokes, just the dumbest fucking G-rated bullshit jokes that made me want to vomit. Lawler, stop talking. I don't even know why he was out there. Makes a couple of cracks at Veer Mahan. Veer kind of threatens him. He doesn't get too physical with Lawler, but he makes it known that Lawler, he's in danger, girl. And then the Mysterios come out to make the save. Ray and Dominic come out, run off Veer Mahan. So I feel like Ray and Dominic are kind of the Hardy Boys in this situation when Brock Lesnar first came in and he was working with them. I feel like they're playing that role here with Veer Mahan. And we might wind up just getting a handicap at some point, maybe even at the pay-per-view if they haven't already announced that, and Veer just wipes them both out. Maybe he takes out Dominic. Maybe he really injures Dominic or something, and you send Dominic down to NXT to work a little bit. Don't think it would hurt him. And that would be an interesting place for Dominic to be, because NXT is like super horny. I don't really watch NXT, but everything I see on Twitter is just tits and ass and sexual innuendos and all that stuff. So you send Dominic down there, that boy might come back a different person, if you know what I mean. So I think maybe the Mysterios being used just to put over Veer will have another element to it other than just feed them to him, let him murder you. Hopefully it can birth something else, and maybe, you know, some sort of a direction or a career, personality or career direction change for Dominic. We'll see. Alexa Bliss was up next, taking on her old friend Nikki ASH. Little guerrilla interview prior to the match where Bliss mentions the history with her and Nikki ASH, but now her best friend is a fucking doll, and she's just ready to get back to action or whatever the fuck else. She's got that new music now. You guys can let me know, is it good or bad? Do you like it? Do you not like it? I can't tell if I like it at all. But so far, it doesn't seem like she has much of a direction. She's just out there winning some matches until they figure out a program for her to be in. She beats Nikki ASH rather handily with the Twisted Bliss. Fans seem to be happy that she's back. However, I still think her carrying that doll around leaves them open to, do something major with her down the road. Good to see Alexa Bliss back, even though it doesn't seem like WWE has any clear direction for her. I really liked the Asuka interview. Didn't understand much what she said, but man, watching her mock Becky is so funny. Just watching Asuka troll, I could watch that shit all day. Oh man, bless Asuka. She is so great. Cody versus The Miz was up next. This is a rematch from a few weeks ago. This has got to be the second time they've faced in the ring, maybe third on Raw. Cody, meanwhile, has been working Seth every night. I think he's had 22 or 23 matches against Seth Rollins alone on the house show since he came in at WrestleMania. So that's getting old. And he faces The Miz here tonight. Again, super predictable outcome here. Cody could just straight up beat The Miz. I suppose that could happen, but one thing we do know for sure is that Cody's not going to be taking any kind of a loss. So he was either going to beat The Miz outright, or Seth Rollins was going to jump the ring and attack Cody Rhodes, and Cody would win by DQ. And that's exactly what happened. Seth attacked Cody, shoved him off the top rope, causing the disqualification, and then Seth Rollins and The Miz continued to attack Cody together. And Cody would do an interview later on backstage, vowing to end Seth at Hell in a Cell. And that's going to be a pretty good match. I'm actually looking forward to that. After that, we got Chad Gable taking on Ezekiel. And Kevin Owens is out at ringside, of course. Kevin Owens is still trying to push this bullshit conspiracy theory that Ezekiel is somehow Elias and they're the same person, when it's completely obvious and it's been proven that they are brothers, and Owens is so goddamn delusional he can't get this shit through his head. And he damn near boiled things over tonight because Ezekiel is actually able to win and score a quick roll-up pin over Chad Gable. Kevin Owens has a conniption fit and freaks out and challenges Ezekiel at Hell in the Cell. He continues to insist that Ezekiel is Elias, but he also kind of concedes to where, there's just nothing he can do about it because he's right. He's wrong and he knows he's wrong. So now he's just claiming that he's going to come after Ezekiel and, physically get his revenge, and he's challenged him at Hell in the Cell. So it looks like we're getting Owens and Ezekiel at Hell in the Cell. And man, Owens, he's got to understand, he's not getting there with Elias. He's getting in there with someone who clearly has got a lot more ability than Elias. And I think Owens is going to go down at the pay-per-view. Ezekiel is good, real good. After that, we get that Bobby Lashley and MVP match we were talking about. And the winner gets to pick the stipulation for Hell in the Cell, which I've already ranted about because the name of the goddamn pay-per-view is a stipulation, and then they're going to sit here and think real hard of what stipulation to do. There's a stipulation hanging above the ring. Just push the button, lower the cage, done. There should be no thought to this, but they're going to think about it anyway. And I had a feeling with Omos being out there that MVP was likely to get a win here because a heel should be the one picking stipulations, I always feel. And Lashley had his way with MVP for a little while, but in the end, he gets counted out thanks to Omos, and MVP scores a upset countout victory over Lashley. Lashley freaks out, puts MVP in the Hurt Lock for a little bit of revenge, and now MVP is set to pick the stipulation. We should assume he will do that next week. He did not do that tonight, and Corey Graves, he says something like, "What do you think the brilliant mind of MVP will pick to be the stipulation at Hell in the Cell?" I'm like, just listen to that sentence, say that again slowly. I'm like, just pick a fucking Hell in the Cell. So now that MVP can pick the stipulation, I'm assuming if it's not a Hell in the Cell, he's going to get pretty damn creative with it. He needs to do something to really stack the deck against Bobby Lashley. If he does something stupid like a handicap match, let's just make it me and Omos versus you. I'm like, that's the best you got? You had a whole week to come up with this? MVP's pretty cool, though. I suppose he's the type of guy that could announce this on social media. I wouldn't be disappointed if he did. But if they do wait until Monday, then he's going to have to come up with something weird. But you don't want to go too wacky because you already got a cell hanging over that ring. So what kind of gimmick match are you really going to do? I think it's, it could be just a regular match in the ring with a whole bunch of crazy rules. Like Lashley has to have his dick tied behind his back or something like that. I don't know, but something to make him physically at a disadvantage. One arm, or he has to lay down, or he has to sit in a chair or whatever, as to wear nipple clamps. Who knows what MVP will come up with. But I think that it's just silly to even have something like this when you got a big-ass red box hanging right above the ring that you can just lower down, and these guys can fight it out and settle things once and for all. To not be able to come to that conclusion in your brain, to me, is alarming, and MVP should get himself checked out. Then we get the main event, of course, Becky Lynch taking on Asuka. If Becky wins, she is going to be added to the Asuka and Bianca Belair match at Hell in a Cell, making it a triple threat. Bianca Belair is also out there on commentary. Pretty decent little match between Becky and Asuka, as last week's match was. However, the finish I did not like. I started watching about the last minute or so of the match, and I see where they're on the outside of the ring. Asuka has got like a chicken wing on Becky, and then she throws Becky into Bianca Belair, who's sitting there. Becky's like in Bianca's lap. Asuka goes to kick Becky. She moves. She kicks Bianca instead, and that's where it got confusing to me, because it looked like Becky had then grabbed Asuka and looked like she was going to throw her into the announce table. But Asuka kind of crumbled, and she just threw her to the mat. She did not, or just threw her to the ground. So she didn't even take a punch or take a bump or anything. She just kind of threw her down, and then Becky slides in the ring. Referee continues the count. He gets up to 9. Asuka jumps up and gets in the ring, but then she's still selling, and Becky is able just to lay on top of her and pin her. But what exactly was she selling? She was in control. She had Becky in the chicken wing. She threw Becky into Bianca Belair. Then she kicked Bianca, and all Becky did was throw her to the ground. She didn't throw her into the post. She didn't throw her into the table. Didn't hit her with a chair. Didn't hit her with a move. She just literally threw her down, and then got in the ring. And then when Asuka beat the count, she wasn't able to get up. She was still just laying there, and then Becky just pinned her. So what I think was supposed to happen is maybe Becky was supposed to throw her into the announce table or something, and they were just running low on time, and Asuka didn't take the bump properly, and she just fell down. But it seemed like she was in control up until the accidental kick on Bianca Belair. So why was Asuka so weak when she got back in the ring to be pinned? Did I miss a very big part of the ending of that match that I'm not seeing or something? And nobody was even talking about it on Twitter. And I'm like, what was the deal with that finish? It just didn't seem like Asuka. Seemed like Asuka should have been able to kick out from that, since she was just on the outside delivering offense, and she hadn't been hit with any offense after that. She just rolled in and got pinned. So it didn't make sense to me. But generally on Monday Night Raw in the main events, I'm starting to get ready for the stream. So it doesn't have my full attention. So I very well may have missed something, but based on what I saw, it didn't look like, it didn't seem like Asuka should have been pinned there, but she was. So Becky wins. Now it's going to be a triple threat. I think we all love Becky, but I would have been perfectly happy with them just leaving the match the way it was. But then again, a triple threat match isn't that big of a deal. Becky will come up short. I think Bianca Belair will win this. And, you could also do 2 birds, 1 stone here, because a lot of people have been complaining about Becky being added to this, but I don't know if any of us really expected Asuka to beat Bianca Belair either. So if they were going to do 1-on-1 and Bianca was going to pin Asuka, why not just pin Asuka in a triple threat? Or now you even have a chance for Becky to get pinned and Asuka, avoid a pinfall loss, and maybe even getting her another shot at the next pay-per-view or on TV or whatever. But Asuka and Bianca is an interesting match 1-on-1 just due to their individual dominance in NXT. Asuka was more physically dominant because she went on that long winning streak and held the title forever. Bianca Belair just had a whole lot of popularity and potential. So they're really, really a fun kind of match there. But Becky's horning in on it now. So we'll have to see what they book for Money in the Bank, what they book for SummerSlam, who the contestants are at Money in the Bank. If Asuka and Becky both fall short here, which we assume they will, they could both be combatants in the women's Money in the Bank. Who knows? But either way, we're going to start setting the table for SummerSlam. We just got to get through all these dumb pay-per-views first. So it's going to be a triple threat now. Becky and Bianca and Asuka. And there we go. And that's really all I've got for Monday Night Raw tonight. Got nothing on it at all. Or nothing else on it at all, I should say. But let me cruise back over here to the chat, and we can do some more talking, answer some super chats, answer any other questions or whatever else you guys want to talk about. Denny down bad. As a casual wrestling fan, I didn't end up watching Monday Night Raw tonight. If I was a casual wrestling fan, I wouldn't be watching Monday Night Raw tonight either. I wasn't going to do a review, but I committed to it earlier in the day. I just put the link up, and if I would have known how bad the show was going to be, I probably wouldn't come up here. But I also wanted to come up, make an effort to be up here on the channel a lot this week, since I will be in Vegas this weekend for Double or Nothing. And after that, I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to come up and do like a review of that show. And just to recap, in case you weren't listening earlier, we have no video tomorrow, but we have a Dynamite watch along on Wednesday. On Thursday, I'm dropping my Over the Edge 1998 review. And then on Friday, I'm doing Double or Nothing predictions. The link to the Double or Nothing predictions video is already on my channel, so you can go right over there and save that for Friday. And then, of course, Thursday, I'll have that video dropping, and we'll be here partying on Wednesday night watching the Double or Nothing Go Home Dynamite, which is shaping up to be a pretty fun looking show as well. So we got a loaded week on the channel before we get to the weekend. Triple H and Shawn, yeah, I don't think Triple H is going to be coming back wrestling, even if it is in Saudi Arabia, but Shawn Michaels already did it once. Who's to say he can't do it again? All right, I got the Janela and Barry Horowitz match. I was not aware of that. Mike Maxson, thank you very much, dude, for the $5. Appreciate that. Rest in peace, Owen. Crazy to think how much he missed out on. Still love Slammies he carried around. So funny. The Slammies were great. Owen wasn't doing a ton in WWE in 99. I remember being really disappointed with his runs in 98. I felt bad. I was such a big Bret Hart fan and Hart Foundation fan and loved that run in 97. And then after the screw job, Owen was, given a pay raise and kept in the company, put in a program with Shawn, but immediately, he was, his importance started to tank in the company, joined the Nation. He found ways to be entertaining despite all of that. He still had some high-profile feuds with Ken Shamrock and stuff. And then when they got to the next year and he started tag teaming with Jeff Jarrett and then decided to make him the Blue Blazer, it was when they started just doing crazy shit. And you think about the screw job, and if Bret Hart would have never left, I don't think that Owen would have been ever would have been the Blue Blazer. I think he would have just been Owen Hart, and he would have gone on to win a few more singles championships, and whatnot, but he wouldn't have been dressed up in that nonsense. So it's still crazy to see, but he was entertaining as hell in those Slammies. That first one he won, he just basically stole both of them and then claimed to be a 2-time Slammy award winner. He had an interesting kind of demeanor in his voice and everything, just the way he would yell and laugh. He was so fucking funny. He doesn't get enough credit for that, because when he was a heel, he was more of an asshole, costing Bret Hart the title, tricking his mom into throwing the towel in. But man, sometimes he could be jaw-dropping hilarious. Rarely even. I skip the intro of Orange is the New Black every time. I still don't really even know what the full song sounds like. I should listen to it. Finishing up season 3 probably tonight. We are on, I think, episode 10 of season 3. And season 2 was so intense. They had that fucking whorish whore V, who I hated. I hated V. And it was so intense, and she was such an evil son of a bitch, and all the things that she was doing, turning these girls against each other, and they're beating each other up, and everything is just so crazy and so intense. And this season, the entire season is about a panty-smelling business. I'm like, what the fuck? So I think like something major has got to happen at the end of the season, because it's been very tame. Like everybody seems to be getting along. Some of the storylines are more lighthearted, and even some of the issues between the inmates are more lighthearted. They don't have that vibe of danger to them, unless Lori Petty turns out to be some sort of a psycho. But it's different this season. So we're plugging along. We'll be starting season 4 probably tonight or tomorrow. So I do like Red. Although she's been disappointing me too. I like Red when I first started watching it, and then she kind of fell from grace. But and Piper has been insufferable. She just kissed Justin Bieber, so now she's going to start cheating on Alex, and that's a shitty thing to do. And it seems kind of risky to be starting a business in prison when you have like 7 months left on your sentence. Something tells me she's going to get busted and sentenced to more time. So yeah, that's my Orange is the New Black synopsis as I reach the end of season 3. Jay Lambo, what's up, man? Favorite Owen Hart match, WrestleMania 10, Bret Hart, 100%. 100%. It's definitely my favorite Owen match. Not sure if it's my favorite Bret match, but it's up there. It's definitely up there. Thanks, man. Dig a dirt. Don't watch wrestling anymore, but the Seinfeld reference brought me in. I really do enjoy, like, everybody criticizes, like, Becky's ridiculous shit, but I like it. I think it's hilarious that they go so beyond over the top. Like, there's crazy, and then there's, like, super crazy, and then there's, like, not the wrestler, and then there's, like, over the top, and then there's, like, over the top. And that's what they do. Seth's suits get more and more ridiculous, and Becky's outfits get more outlandish, but I kind of like it. I just like the absurdity of it. To me, I get a kick out of it. I find Becky's stupid outfits entertaining. They're funny. I think she's not trying to she's trying to look ridiculous. I think that's what the fans have to understand too. I see a lot of people criticizing Seth's suits. Man, he fucking looks like an idiot. I'm like, that's the point. He's out there, purposely trying to look like an idiot. And I think Becky is trying to do the same thing. So, and just like the Miz, like, look at the Miz, look at the shit he wears. He's a heel. That's what heels do. Randy Savage, did the same thing. A lot of those heels back in the day would be so fucking flashy and over the top. With the big sparkly ass robes and stuff. You didn't see a lot of that. So when Becky comes out there with RoboCop sunglasses and the puffy shirt, I kind of get a kick out of it. So rocking the puffy shirt tonight was very daring. But Becky can pull it off. Becky's beautiful, so she can wear anything she wants. Seth is the same way. He looks hilarious in everything he wears. The crazier his suits get, the happier of a wrestling fan I am. So I'm actually someone that appreciates the absurdity of these outfits, and you do have to wonder behind closed doors if they try this shit on in front of each other, because it's like, how do you even shop for this stuff? Do they shop online? Do the two of these fools get in a car and physically drive to places and say, show us the craziest shit you got? Or do they just, does WWE buy this stuff for them? I'm legitimately curious how that works, because it's insanity. Yeah, tricking his mom to throw in the towel was probably all his idea. I don't know. That kind of seems like something Brett would come up with too. Just bringing the family into it. But there was one day in my life, because even when Owen was a heel, even when he was feuding with Brett, obviously Brett was my favorite wrestler, and Owen would piss me off sometimes. But I never truly hated Owen, except for that one day at Survivor Series when he did that. I'm like, that motherfucker. Brett lost to Bob Backlund. Are you fucking kidding me? And I was so mad. I was so mad. I was so pissed. So, I mean, I've loved Owen Hart every single day of my life except one. But now I forgive him, because that was a brilliant move. He knew his mom could be manipulated, and he used that to his advantage to screw over his rotten, dirty, stinking brother Brett. And, looking back, it was a brilliant move. So I feel bad for hating Owen for one day. But that day in 94, I was pretty upset. I was a junior in high school. You got hormones running through. You're crazy. So I let my emotions get the best of me. I'm sorry, Owen. Should be noted as well, today is also the 2-year anniversary of Hana Kimura's suicide, which her tragic death being linked to Owen's, because they're equally tragic in two completely different ways. But they have the similarities with how tragic it is and how avoidable it is and how frustrating it is. Because Hana Kimura, what was she, 22? Fucking 22, a child, a sweetheart, bullied into this type of stuff and took her own life. And you think about how many things could have been done and how Owen and Hana Kimura should both be alive and well right now. Those two forever linked by this day, by this date, is just tough pill to swallow. May 23rd is not good. Not a good day. Not a good day at all. Yep, Brett lost to Bob Backlund. It was interesting, though, that I used to think that Vince did this on purpose, because Hogan had just come in to WCW and had just won their title in like June or whenever that was of 94. So at that point, other than maybe Undertaker, the only person that Vince really had that has had a comparable run to Hogan and was Hogan's predecessor was Bob Backlund, who held the title, I think, longer than Hogan. I think it was Bruno, and then Backlund held it the second longest. Pedro's in there somewhere too. And so it was like we had Bob Backlund and Hulk Hogan representing the two companies as world champions when, the two of them were champions collectively for like 8 or 9 years, maybe more than that in WWE if you add the two of them together. So from, I don't know, 1978, I guess, 1978 through 1988, it was only Hogan and Backlund occupying the world championships. Think about that shit. Well, Iron Sheik, if you count that 1 month, he was a transitional. You can almost eliminate him. But it was Hogan and Backlund throughout all of that. So maybe Vince felt like, okay, you took our biggest star, but before he became our biggest star, we had another big star, and let's put the title back on him. But this is Bob Backlund we're talking about. Sure, in a shoot, Backlund might be able to stretch Hogan, but come on, the charisma factor, the household name shit, I just thought they would have been better off sticking with Bret. Just crazy that they did that. Kind of cool looking back that Bret was able to pass the belt back to Backlund after all those years, but really strange decision why they did it. But they did it for the same reason that they put the belt on the Iron Sheik, to get the belt from one babyface to another, which is interesting because the Sheik was used as a transitional guy between Backlund and Hogan, and now Backlund is being used as a transitional guy between Bret and Diesel. So he found himself in that same situation. Yeah, I think Breaking Bad will get a look eventually. Nice. You have a YouTube video that has passed over 1,000 views discussing Curt Hennig swerving the Horsemen to join the NWO. That's awesome. Congrats. Was that a recent one? Curt Hennig swerving the Horsemen. Man, I remember that. That match was in North Carolina. That was in Winston-Salem, and that was War Games, and that was good. I bought that pay-per-view. I still have the original recording on pay-per-view. Don't know why I didn't go. We weren't going to WCW shows at that time, though. Going to WWE ones, but we weren't really going out of our way to go to any WCW pay-per-views. But I watched that live because that was a fun time. That was when Arn Anderson had to retire, and he recruited Curt Hennig to come in and take my spot. I'm not offering you a spot in the Horsemen. I'm offering you my spot. The fucking NWO took that my spot shit and just ran with my spot. And then they came out and did the parody of the Horsemen where Nash is dressed as Arn Anderson. He's got the cooler full of beer and he's talking about my spot. That's one of the funniest WCW angles. I know it was a little disrespectful and maybe in poor taste a bit. Arn Anderson famously did get a little bit ticked about that, but it was funny. It was so fucking funny. And you got to remember, I was a 20-year-old kid, so I'm sitting there in my apartment with my friends, and we're watching this. Of course, 20-year-olds are going to find this fucking hilarious. So if you're 20 years old, look up the NWO parodies The Four Horsemen on Nitro. I promise you, you will laugh your balls off. It was a great, great time. But that was the beginning of Hennig joining the Horsemen only to swerve them, and then he was on their side going into War Games and then turned on them, and then they did the Ric Flair guillotine thing with the cage door on his head. That was a great pay-per-view. And it was one of the last times that, the NWO was going to be able to pull off some sort of a big swerve, because NWO was arguably even starting to get stale maybe around this point, where it's over a year now. You had a lot of members joining. You did a lot of swerves already with the Giant and other people joining the NWO. So to do another swerve, a lot of fans saw it coming. Like, I wasn't shocked that Hennig did what he did. It made perfect sense to me, especially, he's another guy that, will spend a lot of time in WWE. So when he did that, I wasn't necessarily shocked, but it was still a great reaction, right? Great reaction from the crowd, from the announcers, and Hennig got a shit ton of heat for that. It was great. It was great. Oh yeah. Oh man, your office is upstairs and you broke your ankle. Yeah, that would pose a problem. That's awesome. So your friend's dad rented that match to watch. We all thought Bret had that hands down. My friend's dads were swearing we were only 13. I did too. Like, I thought the match against Bob Backlund was weird, and I was skeptical going into Survivor Series. I'm like, they wouldn't. I mean, Bret had a healthy run by that point, but I was like, they wouldn't belt Backlund, would they? Brett's the champ. He's the man. I'm a huge Brett fangirl. I'm not thinking clearly. And in my head, I'm like, nah. But I should have seen the writing on the wall. They did the match on TV where it was a babyface match and Brett beat him and Backlund turned heel and he fucking swerved and he choked out Brett. It's the same thing. It's a transitional champion, just like Sheik and just like Slaughter. Slaughter, another longtime good guy, comes back, and then turns out to be an Iraqi sympathizer. He's a fucking asshole, and they use him to win the title so they can get the belt from Warrior to Hogan. And now they're doing it again, and now Backlund is going to be used as this guy. I should have seen that coming after Brett beat him. He stuck out his hand for a handshake. Backlund slapped Brett, put him in the chicken wing, and that was when Backlund kind of turned into the crazy heel, and they booked a return match at Survivor Series for the championship, and I should have known. I should have known, but at the time I didn't even really see Diesel. I knew WWE was high on Diesel, but I did not see them hot-shotting him right to the title that quick. So even if there was somebody else out there that WWE was going to put the belt on, there was nobody that was really on my radar of saying, oh, Backlund's going to be a transitional champion so they can put the belt on Taker perhaps. That I could potentially see, especially since Taker won the main event that night. But Diesel was not on my radar. So just Backlund beating Brett in general was something I didn't think was going to happen. But the cornermen, Bulldog and Owen and all that stuff, and having Helen Hart throw in the towel was all really, really well done. But boy, it pissed off a Bret Hart fan like me. I'll tell you that, man. Batista at Saudi Arabia. Perhaps. I don't know if he would necessarily wrestle. I think, especially now that Triple H is retired, I don't think Batista would want to tarnish that. I mean, unless it's some astronomical amount of money. I mean, if he had his last match against his best friend, but they're like, look, we'll give you $5 million to wrestle, you might have to fucking wrestle. I don't know. But I think anybody who's technically retired, the Batistas, the Undertakers, should stay retired. And if they want to do a Saudi Arabia appearance, maybe just do an appearance. That's it. Or maybe do something in the ring where you don't do a match. You just beat up a heel. Undertaker comes in and choke slams Austin Theory. Something like that. And leave it at that. And don't actually have a match. But it depends on how they're going to book the Saudi Arabia show. If they really are going to make it a big deal in November, or if that tagline is just really going to be for one specific match. Maybe they got Austin going to work another one or something. Who knows? But it'll be interesting. See where they go with it. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here now, you guys. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Have a good rest of your Monday. Don't forget, the only day of the week there will not be a video is tomorrow. We'll be back up here on Wednesday for our Dynamite Watch-Along. Thursday, I'm dropping Over the Edge in 1998 review. It's a crazy one. And then on Friday, right before I head off to Vegas, we're going to come up here and do a live predictions video for Double or Nothing. So a whole lot of good mic work this week before we get to our pay-per-view weekend. So you guys have a good one. Thanks again for being here, and talk to you real soon. Y'all be